everybody, welcome to Chronicles of a Golden Girl. I'm your host, Keisha B. Nelson, and I'm so excited for today because we're going to be talking about a very important topic with Miss Jasmine Dougans, who is the founder of STAND, which is a community organization that advocates for the support and healing of those who have survived sexual abuse. So before we get started, I do want to just let people know that, this is going to be a serious conversation, and if you feel that it may be triggering for you, we totally understand. Sis, just exit out. It's okay. We really want to keep everyone mentally healthy, but we also want to make sure that we bring awareness to such an important topic that so many people have survived through. So if you need to support in another way, click on the next episode, and I won't be offended. But if you feel that you want to learn more, or if this would be supportive for you and helpful, please continue watching. So, Jasmine, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, no problem.
I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I think the thing that is most exciting is that we're sort of at the stage in our lives where people are not just experiencing things, but they're taking their experiences and doing something with them. So I'm really excited about STAND. So tell us a little bit about the STAND story. Where did you come up with the idea? All of that.
Okay, so the STAND story is I am a survivor of childhood sexual assault and incest. So my earliest memory, I don't have an exact age, but my earliest memory is of my sexual abuse. So 4, 5, maybe even before that, at the hands of an older male cousin. And it happened for 10 years or so.
Wow.
And I think I suppressed it, I hid it, I buried it, just because nobody wants to deal with the thoughts and the pressure and the heaviness and the weight of it.
Of course.
So STAND was birthed from that. My freshman year in college is the first time I ever told anybody.
Wow.
My freshman year at Temple. And the first person I told was my choir director at the time. He had a way of just knowing when something wasn't right.
Yeah.
So he asked, so what's going on? How are you? And I don't know if it was a look, if it was a feeling for him, but he was like, no, you're not okay. No, what is it for real? So I ended up sharing with him, breaking down, emotional, all over the place.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, so he had met my parents before through the choir and all of that. And he asked if I had shared, and I was like, no, you're crazy. Like I've never told anybody anything. And he helped me to sit in the realness of it.
Yeah.
Of course, pray me through it and all of that stuff. And then I was able to share with my mom and dad, and then from there went into counseling.
Yeah.
And after the counseling, I realized, as heavy as it was for me, there's so many other people who are still sitting in the weight of it.
Yeah.
So I decided to do something.
That's amazing. And I'm really sorry that happened to you. That is a long time to be going through something and holding on to it. How were you able to hold on to something like that for so long?
The short answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I think part of it is just the burying it.
Yeah.
So it happened. I knew it happened. But like I said, nobody wants to deal with that. So I buried it and suppressed it for so long. And I think the pressure of being a first year college student, being away from your family, being away from your support system. That first year of college, I got really sick. So I was like in and out of the hospital. It was a mess.
You were carrying it all.
Or trying to.
Yeah.
And I just think the pressure of all of that is what bubbled it up to the surface.
So when you said that your choir director was able to help you sit in the realness of it, what does that mean? Like, what did that look like for you to sit in that, like, all of that?
For me, that means one, speaking it, hearing myself say, I was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Calling it what it was, calling it rape, dealing with the emotions of it, dealing with the heaviness of it. Always happened at my grandmother's house. Every single time. The house was always full. There were always people around. How could nobody know?
Yeah.
How come nobody protected me?
Yeah.
How many other people has this happened to, in the family or friends or people who are around?
Yeah.
So just sitting in the weight and the realness of it's okay to say that you're not okay.
Yeah.
And then deal in a healthy way with whatever that means for you. Because for different survivors it's different.
Yeah.
For me, journaling and art and all of that is how I started and am continuing my healing process. But for different people it's different. Some people never go to counseling. I was in counseling as soon as I could, wipe my tears on my face. And that helped for a little bit, but then even after going to counseling, I still didn't feel whole.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what can I do that will make me okay? Because my healing journey doesn't have to look like the next survivor.
I think that's really important. I appreciate that you brought up that point, because a lot of times when we experience traumatic events, we think there's going to be a one healing type of like solution. Like going to counseling, period. That's a resolution. And then you're done. But I love hearing that it's kind of like a journey that you did counseling, and that was a piece of it. And now you have stand, and that's a piece of it. You have journaling and art. So talk a little bit about that journey. I see that the counseling was a piece, and then what happened?
I think the counseling for me was a gateway. Counseling, and I advocate for counseling. Yeah. Everybody needs to go talk to somebody.
Good.
But
please go talk to somebody.
Please. But I think counseling was good for me to begin the healing process, because my counselor in Philly was amazing.
Good.
Amazing. But she asked very directed questions, questions targeted to survivors of sexual assault.
Yeah.
And then even more specifically, childhood sexual assault.
Yeah.
And then the heaviness of, okay, my first sexual experience was rape. That's heavy.
Yeah.
My first, experience with emotion in my body as a female was unwilling and at the hands of somebody who I trusted. And then what does that mean for long-term healthy relationships with men? So after I was able to sit in that, I've always been one for art and museums and paintings and drawing and all of that. That's always been like a healthy place for me, just, quiet the noise of life. So I just immediately turned to it because that's what I knew, that's what I was familiar with. So I think one of the Stand's first big events was the Feel.Deal.Heal event, where I teamed up with one of my good friends, Derek Millard, who got a degree from Simple in art and theater. And we wanted a really immersive experience for not just survivors of sexual assault, but for everybody. Art and music is healing.
Yes.
It just is.
Very much so.
So we wanted people to be able to come in. They listened to different music, beats and sounds to see how does that make you feel. Sit in your feelings, sit in your emotions. Think about something that was hard for you that you dealt with. Create a vision board, and then if you felt comfortable sharing it. There was so many laughs and funny stories and tears and all of that, but I think people in general don't know how to deal with their emotions in a healthy way.
Right.
So just mental health for the country, for the world is so undervalued, so underappreciated, and not just for survivors particularly, because you're dealing with something so traumatic, but art and music is life.
Absolutely.
It really is.
No, and I totally identify with that because that's exactly how, you know, I feel like it's a daily thing. It's like you need a little dose of art, a little dose of creativity to sort of like be able to navigate and even just sort of balance the weight of reality at times. It kind of just gives you that escape, which I mean I think is just amazing. Now, so everybody at this point should probably have heard about the hashtag Me Too and the movement that sort of sparked the hashtag now, and it's been around for quite some time. And I know, you know, we were talking about how unfortunately hashtags can make things very gimmicky and faddish, and it's really unfortunate because with such a heavy, serious topic that so many people have been impacted by, if you yourself have not been affected, you know someone who has, which in turn affects you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just hearing and knowing that you were personally affected impacts me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is happening in the world and this is crazy and unfair. And so I'm, you know, especially as a survivor, how do you sort of negotiate this world that we live in, where social media can take things and make it commercialized and make a brand out of something that's almost it's traumatic.
It's very traumatic.
You know, and even that's why I was so adamant about us doing the trigger warning prior to having our conversation, because talking about that experience, I imagine, is never easy.
It gets easier. It's gotten easier.
Well, that's good to know.
With Me Too, one, Tawana work is like amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Because from survivor to survivor, the strength that she exudes, like even I pull from, and I have a whole organization. But I think it's definitely a necessary conversation.
Yeah.
It's been happening since the beginning of time. And nobody wants to talk about it. It's so taboo. It's happening in our families. It's happening in our churches, in our schools, in our communities. But nobody wants to talk about it. So the conversation starter, I think, is amazing.
Yeah.
As a survivor and an advocate, the thing about Me Too that kind of bothers me a little bit is the fact that people who aren't familiar with sexual assault and rape, they don't understand that one survivor sharing their story gives confidence to the survivor watching who's never said anything. It gives assurance to the survivor who's never shared with anybody, but she's watching the news and she's hearing that 4 more people have come forward to say that this happened to me at the hands of whoever. 50 people can't be lying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
10 survivors aren't lying, and they're saying exactly the same thing. One survivor isn't lying.
Yeah.
And I think it's necessary. We're having those conversations, but at the same time, I want survivors to be believed.
Yeah.
Nobody makes this up.
Yeah.
Understanding the weight and the emotion that comes with sharing and saying and going public. Even when I shared my story for the first time, I had members of my family call me and cuss me out. Like, I was like,
Wow.
But it happened.
Wow.
So I've been on both sides. I've been on the side also of survivors who said, thank you for sharing your story. They shared with me their story. And they said, you're the first person I've ever told.
Wow.
That's heavy.
That's heavy.
But it's also empowering because the confidence that they are gaining as a survivor from watching me or watching Me Too or watching another survivor share is building them up. It's starting them on their healing journey, no matter how fast or slow they're going. Another survivor is watching them. So that ripple effect is powerful. Ripple effect is very, very powerful.
That is. And that makes me think, you know, a little bit about sort of how we engage, you know, because there are a lot of people who are well-meaning, and who want to support and want to advocate, but don't always know the best things to say, and you want to make sure that you're using the right language, you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, you want to make sure that you're genuinely, doing the right thing. We talk about that in a lot of different spaces, whether it's race or sexuality or gender conversations, and you want to make sure that what you're saying is helpful and not harmful to people who have already experienced something that was so tough. What do you say as an advocate are some sort of like do's and don'ts? So for people who, like myself, I want to be able to support survivors of sexual abuse. I don't share that experience, but I definitely, in my heart, I feel, like I would want to do something or say something if somebody says something to me, or, even just withstand. How do we engage? What are some things that we should say, should do, and what are some things that we absolutely should not say, should not do whatsoever?
I think the first and most important thing is to listen. Initially, don't say anything, because the courage and the strength and the self-doubt and the range of emotions, positive and negative, that a survivor goes through, the mental torment before they get the courage to say anything to anybody, is excruciating. So the first thing is just listen. The second thing is become educated on the facts. If you yourself are not a survivor, you know a survivor, whether they've shared that with you or not. You know a survivor. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men.
Wow.
You know a survivor. 1 in 3 women have experienced or will experience sexual assault in their lifetime. 1 in 6 men.
Wow.
You know a lot of survivors.
Yeah.
Another thing to do is reach out to organizations who are doing the groundwork. One of my favorite orgs is RAIN, so the Rape and Incest National Network. Phenomenal. They have a 24-hour hotline, both on the phone and electronic, so email or chat. They have a wealth of myths and facts, statistics. So just become versed in what rape and sexual assault is. The next thing I would say is, once they share, keep that. They shared it with you because they trusted you enough to say something to you. They're not going and telling everybody.
Yeah.
So they told you for a reason. You were what they consider to be a safe space and a safe place.
Not so it could be sensationalized and then
absolutely
taken and turned into this gossipy sort of like conversation.
Exactly. Keep it with you and share it with you, because the last thing a survivor needs after they've battled that torment is to be in another space and hear what they told you.
Yeah.
That can shut them down. That can completely derail their whole healing process for life.
Yeah.
So I think knowing the stats, knowing the facts, listening, and believing. Because it could have been you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
literally
could have been you.
Wow. So, and those were all really good and very, very helpful. And I appreciate that you threw out some resources and spaces and places that people can go and get educated, because education is super important to make sure that you're doing your own work prior to even stepping into that world. I always feel like that is like number one. And I love what you said about listening, because so many times I think, and I hate this, but I'll be the first to admit that I'm like a fixer type of person.
So
where
what can I do? What can I do?
it's like I want to be like, like I want to be there to say that perfect one-liner, and that's probably the dramatic side of me, that I want to be like, But that is something that's so important and so key. And sometimes the hardest thing to do
Absolutely.
is just listen and not comment and not remark.
Exactly.
So I really appreciate you sharing that. What we're not going to do though is we're not going to speed past this conversation and act like you don't have a whole husband and a whole son and a whole, career and an entire organization, which is Stand. And so as we, get ready to sort of close, I really want to talk about that side because, Stand is an amazing, necessary part of our community, especially as, Black women doing things and having things. And sometimes we don't always feel comfortable going to someone that doesn't look like us, and going to someone that looks like us, somebody that's younger and somebody that's transparent, willing to share their experiences can be enough to sort of get somebody to open up. What is it like having a community organization in the nation's capital?
It's not easy at all. Because all the things you listed off, husband, 2-year-old, and teaching and all of that stuff, planning.
Yeah.
Planning. And not working harder than you have to. Because for now, Stan is a one-man show. But watching its impact already, I see the necessity in having to share my baby and trust people with the vision that I know God gave me. But planning is so necessary. So taking 15, 30 minutes to sit down and say, okay, what do I think survivors need to hear or need to see this week? What do I think survivors will value? What does the community need to know about sexual assault and sexual violence this week? So taking that time to just stop everything else, things are going to get done because they have to.
Yeah.
You have to eat, the baby has to eat,
exactly.
all of that stuff. But taking time to not neglect, and I can admit, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Some weeks are better than others, but just taking that time to stop and not forget about the vision is so crucial.
That is so good.
So crucial.
Not working harder than you have to.
Not working harder than you have to.
That is, you said a mouthful. Because I think, especially as when you founded an organization, sometimes you feel like you need to create every new idea and everything from the ground up. When some things you don't. You don't have to. Some things have already been done. Sometimes you can collaborate or partner and those kinds of things. And that can be so hard, especially as a creative. When you have all these ideas and you're like, okay, and then you have to come back to reality like, I am a one-man show, one-woman show. And you have to say, okay, let's figure out what's realistic to do within this vision.
Absolutely.
Speaking of vision, what is your vision for Stand 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 1 year from now?
So my vision is to have my 501c3 completed.
Yes.
Because that opens the gateway for more funding, which then can lead to a greater impact from the community.
Yeah.
Another part of that short-term, long-term goal is to continue with the Heal on Purpose movement that we have. So recently we've been collecting journals and distributing those journals directly to survivors of sexual assault.
Nice.
So far we've collaborated with the DC Rape Crisis Center, the Women's Center in Vienna, In Street Village, my sister's house. So we're doing the groundwork, but I think long term, the more journals, the more donations, the more survivors can be reached, and the more survivors can start their healing journey.
So if someone wanted to support Stand and the work that you all are doing right now today, they can go out, get some journals, and link up with you?
Absolutely. So they can get journals directly, and then find Stan on Instagram at stan_org, or they can go to our Instagram page, and we have a link to an Amazon wish list.
Oh, wow.
We tried to make it really, really easy. Where you just click on the wish list, pick out however many journals you desire to donate, and then they'll be shipped directly to us.
Nice. Well, we are going to donate 2 journals today. And, you guys know I love Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And so
Don't spend your coin.
I found, I probably shouldn't have said that Dollar Tree because you guys know I'm not talking about the dollar store. I was talking about Dollar General. Sorry, I like those stores too, but the Dollar Tree is the one true
dollar store.
Dollar store. But I go there and I always see journals, and I love journals. Mm-hmm. But you can only hoard
but so many.
Many.
Right.
And I was at the Dollar Tree and I saw these beautiful journals, and I thought of Stan because I've been wanting to give you guys some journals. And so here are 2 journals on behalf of Chronicles of a Golden Girl.
Thank you.
And I really pray that some women are able to chronicle their golden healing journey through that. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
For having me.
I'm so excited for Stan and the future of Stan, and if there's anything we can do to continue to showcase all of the amazing work that you guys are doing, please let us know.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you would like to keep in touch with Stan, and if you yourself have been personally impacted, please reach out on Instagram at stand_org.
Yes.
And follow the journey, but also get in contact and get some healing of your own. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.